Hi friends, welcome back to Codelligent. In our continuation of Python series, now we will start looking at some of the collections which are available in Python, starting with the most basic one called lists. So list is a collection of values. So people who are coming from some other programming language like C#, Java, they might be familiar with list, but their list is a collection of values of the same data type, which is not the case in Python. You can have int, string, float, everything together in a list, and it is allowed. And it's a mutable collection. That means you can add, edit, or remove items from this collection. You can change the elements which are there, and it is ordered. So you have indexing. So based on your index, you can find elements, and it allows duplicate value as well. So if you are entering multiple elements with same value, it will allow. And there are multiple inbuilt methods which are available to perform various actions on the lists. So let's see in detail with the help of the code. So now we are in the IDE, Visual Studio Code, and let's see how we can create a simple list. So let me create a simple list ls1, and this is the variable name, that is the list name, and you just have to use square brackets, and inside square brackets you can give the elements. For example, 1, you can give ABC, you can give 2, you can say 3, anything. So it's a collection of strings and numbers together. And if you say print of ls1, and if I bring the console up, so now I save this, I run this. So yeah, in the IDE till now you might have seen like we are using py file name to execute. If you don't want to do that way, you have this option on the top to run. You can just click on this and automatically it will execute and show you the output. So you can see here the execution has been done, and you can see the list getting printed. So let me clear this. So now if I want to access any one element, so as I said, this is ordered list and you can use index based search. So the index always starts from 0. So this is the 0th element, first element, second element, third element. So anytime if I say print, I want ls1 square bracket, where I can mention what should be my index which I am searching for. So for example, I'll say 1. So and let me remove this particular code. So now I am printing ls1 of 1. That means I am looking for the first element. So let me execute py list.py. So I'm using the command based, not the run method on the top. And you can see it prints ABC. So 0, 1, the first element, this will be the value which will be taken out when we say ls1 of 1. So similar to that, if you say ls1 of 2, then you can get the next element, that is 2. So it is like 0 based indexing, and you can anytime fetch that. Now if you want to modify the value, even you can do that. So this is ls1 which is already there, and now I want to change ls1 of 1 is equal to 3. So that means 0, 1. So this is the element which is there at index 1. I want to change that with the value 3. So, and let me print the same here. So if you see this, now you can see instead of ABC it is printing 3, because first we initialized it with 1 ABC. So ls1 of 1 was having a value of ABC, but at this line we have replaced that with 3, and now when we are printing it will fetch 3. So this way you can modify the list anytime. So if you want more clarity, maybe I'll just print the whole list here. So now if you print ls1 here, and if I print ls1 here, so now you can see how it changes. So you can see first the list was like this, and after this modification the list got changed like this. So that is how you can change the element values. And now you have many inbuilt functions available for this list with which you can do a lot of things on this. So for example, you want to add more elements, you want to remove elements, you can do that with the help of a lot of inbuilt methods. So let's see an example for that. So let me create a fresh list called ls1 with maybe some elements like 1, 2, 6, 4, 10, 8, and let me print this list. So now I have created a simple list with all string elements and I'm just printing that. So when I execute, you can see our list is ready, and you can see this will be how we have created in that same order. So now imagine I want to insert one more element. So we have a method called ls1.append. So if you use append, you can give a value and append will add that element at the last. So now if I say 5, so it will be added at the last of the list. So again, let me print the ls1 list. Let me save and let me execute. So now you can see initially this was the list, and after doing an append, this became the list. So the 5 has been appended at the last. So now after this, you have one more method called insert. So how append and insert is different is append will always add the element at the last, whereas insert gives you an option to insert it anywhere within the list. You can mention the index and you can insert the element there. So for example, 0, 1, 2, and this is the third index. So I want to insert a new element at the third index. So when I say insert, I have to give index 3 and the value which I want. So maybe in this case, we will give a value of 9. And after doing that, let's print and see what is the list value. So let me save. Let me execute. So now you can see till here we had the same list. After that, when we did insert of 3, 9, so 0, 1, 2, third. This is the third index where I have inserted the new element 9. So this is how you can use insert or append to add new values into the list. Now, after this list, I want to remove one item. So for that, so when I say ls1 dot remove, and you can tell which value you want to remove. So for example, I want to remove maybe 6, and then I'll print this again. So let me clear this and print. So now you see after that line has been executed from this list, the value 6 has been removed. So it doesn't exist anymore. So this remove function will take the value, not the index, and it will search for that value in this list. If it exists, it will print that. So now the question will be, what if the value doesn't exist? So for example, ls1 dot remove, and I will remove ABC, which doesn't exist in the list. Let's see what happens. So when I print, now you can see it throws a value error saying X not in the list. So it couldn't find this, so it threw an exception. So you have to be very careful when you're using remove, otherwise your code might break, your program might break, because if you are passing some value which doesn't exist in the list, it will just throw an exception. So for that, you can always do a check. So before this, if I say if ABC in ls1, so this is a check which I am doing, and only if it exists it will remove, else I will say print not found. Now let's see what happens to the same code. So let me clear this. So you can see it prints not found. So before removing, you want to check whether the value really exists, and only then you want to delete. Then you can use this particular kind of if condition, wherein if the value in ls1. So be careful, in is a keyword which is a reserved word. So when you say value in list, it will check whether first this value exists in the list. If it exists, only then it will perform the remove, otherwise it will not. So now let me remove this and I'll introduce you to one more method called pop. So when I say ls1 dot pop, you can see it takes an index. So instead of a value, it takes an index. So for example, this is our final list till now, and from here I am saying 0 1 2 3 4, maybe there's targeting the value 10. So I will say pop of 4, and then let me print the ls1. So now when I execute this, so you can see the value 10 has been removed from the list. So unlike remove, here you are not passing the value, but you are passing the index. So in the remove, you are saying this is my value. If you find this, please remove it from the list. Whereas in the pop, you are saying this is my index, and reach that index, whatever element is there, just remove that. So that is how these two are different. And one more difference which is there is remove doesn't return you anything, whereas pop returns you the element. So for example, when I say ls1.pop, I can say my val is equal to, so that means the whatever element or whatever value it has found at that index, before removing it will store into this variable and then it will remove. So after this, if I really want to print that, I can use that variable. So for example, item removed was, and I can say my val. So now if I execute this, so you can see with this pop, it has removed the 10 from the list, but before removing it stored that value into this, and in this print statement we are using that particular value. So that is the benefit of using pop. Apart from this, now we have one more method called sort. So what if you want to sort the list? So this is a string list. So let me remove this particular statement from here. Till now our list is like this. This is the final list which we get after all these execution. Now on this, if I perform ls1 dot sort, and then if I print my ls1 again, so let's see what happens. Let me execute this. So now you see this is the final list which we received, and after that we did a sort. So now you can see it has been ordered in the alphabetical order. So you can see E, F, F, N, O, T. So the list has been ordered as per the ascending order. People who are coming from some other programming languages like C# and Java, they might be having a sort functionality there as well with the list, but mostly that will not affect the actual list. So usually that will be like whenever we say ls1.sort, it returns a list which is sorted, but it will not touch the existing list. But in Python it is not the case. When we say ls1.sort, the actual ls1 list itself will be sorted, and that actual list itself will be impacted. So be careful about that. So these are the various functionalities which we have, or the various functions which are provided along with the list. So hope this is clear, and let me remove all these and let me keep only the first two lines. So now we have a list and we are just printing the list. So let me clear this as well, and just let's see the list. So this is the final list. Now as I have shown, we can access the list items based on index. So I can say ls1 of 3 to get the third index element. So that means actually it is fourth element. Apart from this, you can use negative indexing as well. So when I say negative indexing, since this is 0th element, when we say -1, it goes till the last. So the last element is always -1, then again -2, -3, -4, and it goes till here. So let's see how that works. So if I say print of, I can say ls1 of -1. So now let's see what happens with this negative indexing. So now you can see it has fetched 8. So from the list, the last element is 8. What if I do -2? So when I do -2, it gets 10. So this is negative indexing and it starts from the back. But be careful, it goes only till here. After that, it will throw a exception. So for example, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what if you enter the index something which is not there, for example 7, and if you execute that, you will get an exception saying index error, list index out of range. Similar to that, even with the negative indexing, you have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. What if you enter -7? Let's execute that. It will again say list index out of range. So be careful about the indexing. It should always be in limit. Don't think that since after 0 it is rotating back here, so after -6 again it will rotate back. No, it will, in positive indexing it will stop till here. In negative indexing it will go back and stop here. So beyond which it will give an index error. Now there might be requirements when we want to copy the lists. So for example, this is my list 1. I want to copy into list 2. So maybe ls2 equal to ls1. So I have just copied ls1 list into ls2. And now I don't want to touch ls1 and I want to work with ls2. So I can say ls2, I'll change an element, at index 1, I will change it to abc. And now let's try to print both ls1 and print ls2. You will see something interesting. So let me clear this and execute. So what do you notice? You can see both the lists have been changed with this particular statement. Why is that? Because whenever you are saying ls2 is equal to ls1, it is not actually copying of list, but it is just giving another name for the list. So when you are saying ls2 equal to ls1, now with this list has two names. One is ls1 and another one is ls2. And now using any of these names, you perform any action, it will impact the actual list. So that's why when you said ls2 of 1 changing the element, it not only changes for ls2 but also for ls1. The actual list gets impacted. So that is something which you need to be very careful. If you really want to copy and you don't want the actual list to be impacted, then how you can do that? So for that, instead of ls1 directly assigning like this, you have a method called ls1.copy. So now in this case, let's see what happens when I execute. Now you can see ls1 remains intact, it is not affected, only ls2 has been modified with abc. So in this ls1.copy, what it does a shallow copy. We call it as shallow copy. So that is like the list completely, the elements will be taken and a new list will be created and this name will be given to that. So in this case, both the lists are different, and when you are performing some action on these lists, it will not affect the other list. You can do this with another concept in lists, that is slicing. So how you do that? In ls1, how you mention usually the index, instead of that you can just mention a colon. So now in this, colon is used usually to slice the list. That is, if you want to extract one part of this list. We will see that again in detail, but if you are not mentioning anything apart from the colon, then it considers that the whole list should be sliced. That means the whole list should be taken. So in this case, again, you will get the same output, and you see both the lists are different and it doesn't impact each. So this is one more way how you can do that. But actual use of slicing is something different. So for example, you want to take out one part of this list. So let me remove this. And here slicing, it takes two numbers, so starting from where, ending till where. So for example, it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to take only from 1, so that means 0, 1 from here, and I want 2, 3. Then you need to mention the number plus 1. So that means if I mention 4, it will consider it as 3. So starting from 1 to 3. So it will not include the last number, it will be doing a -1 of this. So when we say 1:4, that means 0, 1, starting from here to 3, stopping till there. It will not go till 4. So now in this case it will slice the ls1 and take these 3 elements and store it in ls2. So let's see what happens. So you can see this was the original list. It has sliced the list and taken 3 elements and stored in the new list. So this is how slicing works. But one thing which you need to be very careful about slicing is whenever you mention the end index, ideally it is not the index, it is the index -1. So it will not consider this number, it will consider this -1. So if you mention 5, it will take it as 5 minus 1, that is 4, and it will take till there. And you have an option to skip this also. Like for example, if I just say 1 colon, so it will consider starting from 1, take everything. So let's see how that works. When I execute this, it starts from 2, that is like 0 1 1 index, and it goes on till the end. So if you skip the ending part, it will consider like that. Or you can see the other way also. If I don't mention this, it will consider from starting, and I want till maybe 3 minus 1, that is 2. So now in this case, when you execute, you can see it starts from the 0th index and goes till 3 minus 1, that is 2, index 2. So you can use it in all the combinations. You can use starting and ending index. You can skip both so that the full list is taken, or you can skip the starting and keep only the ending, or you can skip the starting and skip the ending. So slicing supports all these combinations. Now there might be a requirement where you want to club or join 2 lists. So maybe for that I'll create a new list. So maybe ls1. I'll create a simple one. So 1 2 3. So this is one list, and I'll create another list wherein it is 4, 5, 6. So these are the 2 lists which I have. Now there might be a requirement where you want to create a list with the combination of both. So that is simple. You can just add these 2 lists. So when you say ls3 is equal to ls1 plus ls2, as simple as that, and you can just print ls3. So let's see what happens. I'll just clear this and I execute this. Now you can see ls1 and ls2 both are combined and stored in ls3, and you get the full list here. So it's very simple to combine these 2 lists. But you might have a requirement wherein you don't want to create a new list, but you want to append the first list as part of the second list. So that means I don't want ls3, but I want ls2, and after 6 I want to include the whole elements which are there in ls1. So in that case, what I can do is, instead of doing like this, I can say ls2 dot, there is a method called extend, and I can pass ls1 as the parameter, and now I can print directly ls2. So now let's see what happens. So now when we execute, you can see ls2 is having 4 5 6, and then apart from that ls1 elements are also appended as part of this, that is 1 2 3. So now it has not created a new list ls3, but in the same ls2 it has appended all the elements which are there in ls1. So that is the way how you can extend a list as well. So it depends on your requirement, whether you want to combine 2 lists and make a new list, then you can use the plus operator. But if you want to append many lists into a single already existing list, then you can use the extend method as well. So these are some of the methods or functionalities which exist along with lists. One last topic which you will see is called list comprehension, which is actually can be done using a for loop on a list, but Python provides a short syntax or a shorthand writing using list comprehension. So let's see how that works. So now imagine you have a list which is having all these elements. Let me extend it further. Yeah, so I have 5 elements in ls1. Now I want to create ls2, a new list, wherein I want to multiply each of these with a number 3, and the value should be stored into this. So one way of doing that is for. So what I can do is I can just create this as an empty list, and I'll say for maybe an element in ls1. So it will loop in that, and I'll say ls2 dot append, and in this I'll say e into 3, and let me print the new list ls2. So let's see how this works. So now you can see 1 into 3 is 3, 2 into 3 is 6, 3 into 3 is 9, like that till end. 5 into 3 is 15. So like this multiplication has been done and added into the new list. Now this is a simple way of writing using for loop, but Python provides a short way of writing this as well, which is called list comprehension. So I don't want to write like this. Instead, what I'll do is I'll remove all these things. I'll start the list, and inside this I will say e into 3, which I want to do, for e in ls1. So this is the simple short way of writing what we have written some time back. So now it will loop in the ls1 because we have a for loop, and each of the element will be taken into e, and what you want to do with that you can mention it here. So here I want to do this with e into 3. So, and the value will be stored as a list. Since it is in a square bracket, it will be stored as a list, and the final list will be given to this variable. So now if you execute this, you can see the output is same. So this is called list comprehension, and it is a shorthand writing of the complete for loop which we have written some time back. And this can be used in a multiple ways. Like with this logic, you can extend it to whatever you want. Like for example, if I have a list of maybe some strings, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we are working with a list of strings. Maybe here I don't want to do a multiply. Here I want to create a list only if in my list there is, in the element, there is an O mentioned. So how we can do that? So ultimately I want the element itself, so that means E will be the one which will be going into the list. So this will remain as it is. Now I'll say for E in list 1, and after this I can mention the condition, that is if maybe string O in E. So now here first it will loop through this particular list and get each element into E. Then it will check the if condition on that, like if O is there in E. So if O exists in these value of element, if it exists, then only this E will be added into the list, otherwise this will be skipped. So let's see how this works. So now this is the list which we have. When we execute this statement, we should see the ls2, and you can see only 1, 2 and 4 has come because 3 and 5 doesn't have an O in that. So this is how you can combine the list comprehension along with some condition. So the same can be done using a for loop, and inside the for you can say if condition, and if that's satisfied then only you will say ls2.append. That can be done, but this is a simple way of writing in one statement in a short way. Hope this cleared what list is in Python, and in further videos we will look at the various other collections which are available. Thank you.